Hey guys, we're live. Okay, I think I just started the live video and then turned off my phone, but never mind that. So today we're going to talk about how to deal with constipation. I am going to tell you 3 things you can do to deal with it besides being on a low FODMAP diet. So I'm going to cover 3 things you can do and 1 thing you should not do to deal with constipation from IBS. All right, so before we get started, I am Julie O'Hara. My website is calmbellykitchen.com and I run the Facebook group Calm Belly Kitchen Crew. I'm a health coach and I help women deal with IBS and manage their symptoms with the FODMAP diet. All right, so that's me. And I'm glad you're here. Thank you for watching the replay. If you have a question, leave it in the comments and tag me and I will definitely come back and check in and answer your question, all right? And if you're live, feel free to say hi. We always have time for a Q&A at the end of the show. This is Calm Belly TV, my weekly live chat here on the Facebook page. So, thank you again for joining. All right, we're talking about constipation. I got my hair done for this, you guys. Not really, that's not true, but I did have it cut and that's why it's as straight as you will ever see it. All right, so let's go. I'm gonna talk about 3 things you can do. So, pulling up my notes here on my laptop screen. Now, let's recap, all right? So, a low FODMAP diet can definitely make a dramatic difference in improving your IBS symptoms, including constipation. It can make a big improvement, but frequently it's not the only thing that you need to do to really effectively manage constipation. Sometimes more additional strategies and treatments are needed, and that's directly taken off of the Monash FODMAP website, by the way. If you're not familiar with Monash University, they created the FODMAP diet and still do all the research on it. So it's true, the FODMAP diet, it can help so much with your symptoms. It can help reduce them a lot and help you manage them, but as you probably have learned if you've been doing the diet for a while, there are a lot of other things that come into play with your digestion. So many other factors affect it. Your digestive system is this very complex ecosystem that can be affected by your hormones, by your brain, and stress is in the mind and stress is in the body. The food you eat, even the low FODMAP food you eat, and we're going to talk even the low FODMAP food you eat, and we're going to talk about food in a second. So many things affect your digestive system, and constipation is one of those things that is caused by a lot of factors, and sometimes you need to fight it on multiple fronts, okay? The FODMAP diet is probably your #1 weapon against it, and by that, I don't mean taking away all FODMAPs and severely restricting yourself. I mean learning the FODMAPs that trigger your symptoms by doing the testing process, by testing FODMAPs and learning the ones that really affect you. You're very likely to find that not all the FODMAP groups have a big impact on you. So some of them you might be totally okay to add back to your diet. So when you've learned the ones that really trigger your symptoms and you avoid them, that's your primary weapon against constipation and all your IBS symptoms. So now we're gonna go over the 3 extra things that you can do if you're still trying to deal with constipation and just feel better, because that's no fun. I know from experience. Okay, so the first thing, and I mentioned this earlier, it's the food you eat. So even if you're eating, only the foods that work for your body, only the low FODMAP foods or the FODMAP foods that you can tolerate, you still want to pay attention to the overall composition of your diet. So what I really mean by that is that you want to make sure you're eating a good mix of fiber-filled foods. So there are different kinds of fiber. There's soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. So the soluble one is the one that kind of it regulates your gut motility. So it regulates how the poop moves through your body and smoothly gets to the other end, okay? So soluble fiber is found in fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, legumes, in many foods actually. And then insoluble fiber is the one that Am I mixing them up? You guys, I think I'm mixing them up. I think I misled you. I'm sorry about that. Talking and thinking and having notes is no easy feat. So, let me start that again. It's really, it's not bad. Like the insoluble and soluble, a lot of times foods will contain both. Like oatmeal is an example of a food that contains both types of fiber, but let me just refer to my notes so I don't lead you astray yet again. The insoluble fiber is the one that helps with gut motility, okay? So it bulks up the stool and helps it move through your system. It's insoluble, which means it doesn't, it kind of retains its original roughage form, okay? So it helps move the stool through your system. So that's insoluble fiber, and that's found in roughage, like in the skins of fruits and vegetables. What else is insoluble fiber found in? In whole grains. So in that rough outer layer of a whole grain, the bran layer, that's where insoluble fiber is. And this one is usually harder to get in your diet. Soluble is a lot easier to find. It's in a lot more foods. It's in a lot of fruit and veggies, nuts, seeds, as well as fiber supplements. And I'll get to those in a second. So it's important to have both kinds of fiber in your diet. Prebiotic fiber is another one, and that's kind of a different category, but essentially what it is it's the kind of fiber that feeds the good bacteria in your gut. And having a healthy, gut flora environment of healthy bacteria is just important for your overall health and any kind of IBS symptoms you have. So prebiotic fiber is another one, and that's found in legumes, unripe bananas, and cold potatoes. It's found in other places too, but those are some good examples of low FODMAP options where you can get prebiotic fiber. So it is important to get fiber. Some really good foods to do that easily are the nuts and seeds, especially things like flaxseed and chia. So from my own experience and from working with clients, chia is one of those kind of little miracle workers, and it's full of nutrients across the board, but it contains a lot of fiber. So because of that, you want to kind of start small. So if you find one of those recipes that calls for like 2 tablespoons of chia that you soak and everything, that's a lot of chia. I would start with more like 2 teaspoons and just, slowly increase it just so your body has time to adjust. Chia is great. Flax seeds are really awesome too. So those are 2 great food sources of fiber, but overall, a good mix of fruit and veggies. This is another reason why it's so important to have a lot of variety in your diet, and you get that by testing FODMAPs and bringing back as much as you can, even in small amounts. Okay, so your food is super important. And what's also really important too is water. That whole 8 glasses a day really does apply. Staying hydrated, the water helps the stool move through your bowels more easily, and that's just good for everything, especially if you're taking any kind of fiber supplement. So let's move on to number 2, the second thing you can do to deal with constipation. That's fiber supplements. So some really good examples of those are psyllium, Metamucil. That's just, like the Metamucil and similar products. That's the more processed version of a soluble fiber supplement. Psyllium is the more, I guess, a natural version. It's just a psyllium. The psyllium husk grain is ground up, and that's just almost pure soluble fiber. So those are all really similar, just kind of depends on your preference. But those are soluble fiber. Again, they help with softening the stool and bulking it up so it can move through your system. So those are good. What else for fiber supplements? Another one that's really popular that, I haven't tried it personally, but a lot of my clients really like it, is acacia fiber. So the one that's on the market that I've seen people have success with is called Heather's Tummy Fiber, and you can find it on Amazon. It's not expensive, but that's another form of soluble fiber that tends to work really well for people. And that's one that, because it's the soluble kind, it helps just with general gut motility, making things work with more regularity. So it's good for diarrhea and constipation. Okay, so fiber supplements are the second thing. Let's recap real quick. The first thing you can do to deal with constipation is to just look at the overall composition of your diet and make sure you're getting enough fiber and you're getting enough water and you're getting enough variety. in there just to keep things really regulated and really healthy. The next thing is to consider a fiber supplement, and the really common ones, the ones that are safe and gentle, are psyllium, brands like Metamucil and similar stuff, and then acacia fiber such as Heather's. Okay, let's move on to number 3, the third thing that you can do to deal with constipation. And I have to say, this is my favorite one because this is the one that works really well for me. It's magnesium citrate. So magnesium, it's, you know, just the vitamin that we've all heard of. It helps with bone density and other things. It's just, you know, one of those essential vitamins, but there are different forms of magnesium, and they all kind of have different functions, I guess. So you want to make sure you have magnesium citrate, because that's the one that has a kind of it has a very gentle, natural laxative effect. It's known as an osmotic. And what that means, kind of referring to osmosis, it means it pulls water into your bowels, and that softens the stool. It makes it move more easily through your system. So that's what magnesium citrate does. But at the same time, it also relaxes the spasms in your gut, the natural spasms. So it doesn't become addictive. It's a non-addictive form of laxative, and I'll get to the addictive kind in just a second. But magnesium citrate is safe. It's non-addictive. It doesn't have a lasting effect on your body. That's what I mean by non-addictive. So with that, the recommendation is to stay under 900 to 1,000 milligrams a day, which would be a lot. That's kind of like the max that's recommended, but you kind of have to experiment to find the right dosage. So whatever, you know, you start small like anything else, and you increase it until you get more regularity. You know, if nothing happens, you can increase it. If your bowel movement is too loose, or, you know, tending towards diarrhea, then you cut it back. But it's not really doing you any harm. So that's magnesium citrate. If you have any questions about that, you can put it in the comments. And 2 that I actually do recommend, the one I use is called Solar Ray, SOLARAY. That's just a brand, or tablets. You can find that on Amazon. And one that a lot of people in the group really like is a drink mix. It's a magnesium like powdered drink mix called Natural Calm, and that's also on Amazon. Now, I have to say that this is not medical advice. This does not replace the advice of a doctor. You need to check, even when you take something like a fiber supplement or a vitamin, you need to make sure there are no interactions with any other prescriptions or any other treatments that you have. So I can't know that. You have to talk to a doctor who's super familiar with your whole medical makeup, right? So this is not medical advice. This is tips for you to explore and try, and things that I know from experience as a health coach working with clients and from myself. All right, so let's finish this up with the one thing you should not do. And it's like, it's never say never, right? Sometimes this does have uses sometimes. So the one thing I don't recommend doing is taking a stimulant laxative. And that's the kind like X-Lax. And you know, there are tons of different brands out there. But the way those work is by irritating your gut, creating spasms, creating urgency, for lack of a better word. And a lot of times it's painful. A lot of times it works overly well. And that is an addictive form of laxative, because if you take it regularly over a long period of time, it trains your body becomes dependent on it. Your body doesn't naturally produce those spasms that move the stool through your bowel and let you have regular bowel movements. So stimulant laxatives are best to be followed by your doctor's recommendations. Sometimes if you're taking another drug that causes constipation, you need to have a laxative. Sometimes, you know, if you're sick, there are definitely times when it's something you can do, but it's not something you should do long term, and you should always follow, you know, your doctor's prescribed dosage and frequency for it. So that's my take on constipation. So that was 3 ways you can deal with it. your overall diet, getting a good mix of fiber in your diet, getting enough water. Number 2 was taking fiber supplements, testing it out to see which one works for you. Examples of that would be psyllium or acacia fiber. And number 3 was taking magnesium citrate supplements, which is a really gentle, osmotic, non-addictive laxative. And the one thing not to do, at least not regularly, is stimulant laxatives such as X-Lax. So those are my recommendations for constipation. I get this question a lot, and I know it's really tough because you expect the FODMAP diet to make you symptom-free, and that's just not the reality for a lot of people. The FODMAP diet is one piece of the digestive puzzle, right? You know how many things affect your body, how many things affect your stomach. So the FODMAPs, like I said, that's your number 1 defense against IBS symptoms. Figuring out your FODMAP triggers, developing your unique lifetime eating style where you can still have variety and still manage those symptoms. That's your first line of defense against constipation and IBS symptoms. But with constipation, sometimes you need extra strategies to work for you. So that's all I got today. Does anyone have any questions? You can always ask questions after the replay, and I'll be happy to help. I'm always happy to get more suggestions for Calm Belly TV topics, and as you might have guessed, the next week's topic is going to be on the opposite extreme, which is how to deal with diarrhea, which is kind of a whole different thing. But yeah, we'll talk about that one next week. All right, so thank you so much, guys, for joining me, and I will talk to you again next week. All right, bye.